Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Absolutely. It is great to be here.
Make sure to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in the description.
Always a good idea to stay updated with all the latest content we are putting out.
Yeah, definitely. So today we are looking at, well, basically an invisible arms race.
Right. The stuff happening totally off the pitch.
Exactly. Because, while all the fans are focused on the massive collisions coming this Saturday in Johannesburg.
Oh, and they will be massive.
Oh, totally. But behind the scenes, there's this shadow war being fought, with algorithms, positional trackers, and, well, these wild psychological mind games that dictate the entire media cycle.
It is honestly just as intense as the physical game itself at this point.
It really is. So our mission for today's fast-paced, under 10-minute deep dive is to unpack this tactical chess match.
There is a lot to get through.
Right. We want to look at the massive backroom staff shakeups and just the sheer weight of this historic rivalry ahead of the Springboks' highly anticipated Nations Championship opener against England.
It is going to be a fascinating weekend for sure.
Because the level of strategic maneuvering happening in the background right now is absolutely brilliant. And we are going to break down exactly how and why these off-pitch decisions will decide the game on the pitch.
I mean, to really get it, you have to look at the context surrounding this Johannesburg fixture, right? It's critical to understanding those off-pitch maneuvers.
Yeah, setting the scene is super important here.
Exactly. We are looking at South Africa's very first match of their 2026 test season.
Right, the curtain raiser.
And in international rugby, that opening match sets the operational tempo for, well, the entire calendar year.
It sets the tone for everything.
Yep. And head coach Rassie Erasmus established that tempo immediately by naming his match day 23 on Monday.
Which is incredibly early.
Right. Revealing your hand a full 5 days early in the week it's not just some standard administrative update.
No, it's a total power move.
Exactly. It is a calculated statement of intent. It communicates this absolute internal certainty, and, it forces the opposition to react to your timeline rather than their own.
Yeah, that narrative connection really jumps out from the sources we're looking at today. But it isn't just about the squad he announced.
Oh, no, it's almost more about what he didn't announce.
Right. It's actually about the information he deliberately withheld. I mean, Rassie named his own squad, but there was just this deafening silence from the South African camp regarding England's squad.
Which is so uncharacteristic if you know the history.
Exactly. And to understand why that silence feels so heavy, for you listening, we kind of have to rewind the tape 19 months.
Yeah, back to November 2024.
Right, that Autumn Nations series clash at Twickenham.
That match is the perfect lens for this whole situation because in the build-up to that match, Erasmus just steps up to the microphone and completely hijacks the week's narrative.
He totally stole the show.
He really did. Before England's head coach, Steve Borthwick, had even announced his team, Erasmus gets up there and names the exact English starting XV he expected to face.
Like player for player.
Right. He didn't just guess a few key players or, the obvious guys. He predicted specific, really nuanced positional shifts.
Including bringing Freddie Stewart back in.
Exactly. He predicted the reinstatement of Freddie Stewart in the number 15 shirt.
Which was just wild at the time. It wasn't just a party trick, though. By accurately predicting Stewart's selection, he fundamentally altered the cognitive load on the entire English camp.
Oh, 100%. It completely scrambled their week.
Right, because instead of Borthwick using his press conference to talk about his team's preparation or, their tactical focus...
He's suddenly on the defensive.
Yeah, he had to field endless questions about how the opposing coach knew his internal decisions. It completely shifted the pressure.
And ultimately, that week culminated in a 29-20 Springbok victory in London.
Exactly. So... naturally, heading into this Saturday in Johannesburg, the media is basically begging Rassie to play the prediction game again.
They are desperate for that headline.
Totally desperate. But he completely folded his cards this time.
He did. He acknowledged to the press that the South African camp had formulated a quote-unquote guesstimate of England's lineup.
A guesstimate. I love that word.
Right, based on all their profiling and calculations, but he explicitly refused to read it out. He stated he just didn't want to create a big story.
Which is just classic Rassie media management, but evolved.
Exactly. It is an evolution. When a coach builds a reputation for being this unpredictable disruptor, the most disruptive thing they can actually do is suddenly play it completely straight.
It reminds me of a veteran poker player.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, like a guy who has conditioned the entire entire table to expect massive aggressive bluffs every single hand.
Right, so everyone is on edge.
Exactly. The other players spend all their mental energy bracing for the chaos, analyzing every twitch. And then the player just quietly folds early and takes a sip of their drink.
And it completely throws them off.
What? The sudden lack of aggression throws the table's rhythm off even more than a huge bluff would have?
That is so true. By withholding the prediction, Rassie deprives the English camp of any perceived disrespect.
He takes away their bulletin board material.
Exactly. He denies them that external motivation, that chip on their shoulder, and essentially forces them to generate all their emotional intensity internally.
Which is so much harder to do organically.
It really is. And that internal focus is exactly his goal here. It keeps his own squad insulated from unnecessary media noise while quietly putting the psychological burden right back on Borthwick.
It's brilliant. But, we shouldn't mistake this public modesty for a lack of preparation.
Oh, absolutely not. The tactical preparation happening behind closed doors right now is more intense and data-driven than at any point in Springbok history.
Which brings us perfectly to the actual, tangible chess match happening in the backroom.
The real unseen war.
Exactly. But before we move from the media mind games to this data-driven arms race, I want to quickly remind you to make sure to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in the description.
Gotta get that in there.
Always. Because, honestly, the Springboks have made a backroom acquisition recently that is fundamentally reshaping how they approach the game.
Oh, it's a massive shift.
And it centers entirely around Joe Louis.
Right. And the timeline of the Joe Louis acquisition is incredibly revealing when you dig into it.
It really is.
Because just over a fortnight after the conclusion of the 2026 Six Nations...
The tournament where England really struggled, by the way, finishing 5th.
Exactly. They did not have a good run. But right after that, SA Rugby confirmed they had recruited Louis. And he isn't some minor addition to the staff.
Not at all.
Louis served as England's head analyst from 2017 to 2021, and then he operated as their senior analyst from 2022, right through the end of that recent Six Nations campaign.
So he spent 9 years deeply embedded in the English system.
9 full years.
That's crazy. He knows the DNA of English rugby inside and out.
Oh, he knows where all the bodies are buried, tactically speaking.
Right. And the timing creates this massive irony for this weekend, because his very first test match, wearing the Springbok colors, is against the exact same players and coaches he is analyzing just a few weeks prior.
He is literally staring across the pitch at his former employers.
It's wild. But Rassie was surprisingly nonchalant about this in the sources we look at.
He really downplayed the drama of it.
He did. He framed this as IP transfer, intellectual property transfer, and basically argued that it is just a normal, inevitable facet of the modern professional era.
Yeah, Erasmus views intellectual property in rugby not as this heavily guarded secret, but more as a fluid currency.
Like it's just meant to move around.
Exactly. And he cited several compelling examples of this cross-pollination to back up his point.
Right, like Matthew Proudfoot.
Yeah. Proudfoot was a pivotal coach for the Springboks, but by 2020, South Africa was preparing to play an England team that Proudfoot was actively helping to coach.
So the shoe has been on the other foot.
Exactly. He also pointed to Byron McGuigan, who spent a week inside the Springbok camp while he was coaching for the Sale Sharks.
Oh, right.
And now McGuigan is involved with England as a defense coach.
So it really does just constantly go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And the ultimate trump card Rassie played to justify all this was Eddie Jones.
Oh, you can't argue with the Eddie Jones example.
I really can't. You have this brilliant tactical mind moving from Australia to England, back to Australia, and then over to Japan.
It's constant movement.
Yeah. Because when a coach or an analyst moves, they don't just bring their laptop, they bring their entire underlying methodology.
They bring the defensive trigger sequences, the line-out spacing philosophies, the attacking shapes, everything.
Exactly. IP transfer is just the reality of a globalized sport now. But looking at the numbers Rassie provided regarding their actual data department, I kind of have to challenge the narrative slightly.
Okay, how so?
Well, the sources show this staggering shift in resources. Erasmus admitted that the back-to-back World Cup champions have historically been massively under-resourced in the data department.
They really have been.
They operated with literally just one analyst.
Which is insane for a team of that caliber.
Totally insane. But now they've expanded to a team of 3.
Right.
You have Paddy Sullivan bringing his experience from the French league to handle scrums and lineouts. You have Lindsay Weir managing the backline data. And now Joe Louis is brought in to focus specifically on the attack.
It's a huge step up.
It is. But Rassie also noted that a Tier 1 nation like France utilizes 8 analysts. 8.
Yeah, the French setup is massive.
So my question is hiring Joe Louis genuinely just about stealing Borthwick's specific playbook for this Saturday? Or is this South Africa recognizing they are falling way behind and desperately trying to modernize their infrastructure?
I think that is the crucial distinction to make. Assuming Lewis was hired just to steal a playbook is, well, it's looking at the sport way too narrowly.
Right, it's too simplistic.
Exactly. Because a playbook is a static document. Plays change, line-out calls evolve every week.
Yeah, you figure that stuff out pretty quickly.
Exactly. What Lewis actually brings is an analytical methodology. South Africa realizes that the margin for error in international rugby has shrunk to microscopic levels.
It's so tight at the top.
It is. If a team like France has 8 dedicated analysts, they aren't just watching game tape on a Monday morning.
Right, they're doing deep data mining.
They are quantifying micro-fatigue levels, tracking the exact milliseconds of a defensive hinge breaking, and, optimizing set piece spacing down to the literal centimeter.
Wow. So South Africa winning those World Cups with just one analyst was almost an anomaly.
In a way, yes.
Like it was built on raw physicality and just having generational talent on the pitch, but it isn't actually sustainable in the current ecosystem.
Precisely. They needed a paradigm shift.
It couldn't just rely on out-muscling everyone anymore.
Right. Operating with a single analyst meant that one person gathered raw telemetry, and then the coaching staff had to spend hours filtering it just to find actionable insights.
Which is so inefficient.
It's incredibly inefficient.
Right.
So by expanding to 3 specialists, including Sullivan's French League insights and Lewis's English systems, the Springboks are importing entirely new frameworks of thinking.
That makes total sense.
Erasmus explicitly stated they wanted a quote-unquote fresh voice. They are trying to build an infrastructure that processes information as efficiently as their Northern Hemisphere rivals.
Yeah, basically ensuring they aren't relying solely on physical dominance forever.
Exactly.
That is such an evolutionary leap in their backroom operations. But, as much as we dissect the telemetry, the microfatigue, and this whole data-driven future of the sport,
Right, all the laptop stuff.
yeah, all of that preparation ultimately has to be executed by human beings on the grass.
Very true.
We have to look at the raw, historic emotion of this fixture. Because all the laptops in the world don't change what it actually feels like to step onto the pitch for a South Africa versus England test match.
No, they certainly do not. The data informs the structural strategy, sure, but the history of the rivalry dictates the physical intensity of the day.
It's visceral.
It really is. And Erasmus, having represented South Africa as a player himself, has a profound personal connection to the weight of this fixture.
He lived it.
He did. He specifically reflected on the era under coach Nick Mallett, when the Springboks had built that incredible 18-match winning streak.
Oh, that was a legendary run.
It was. They were on the precipice of historic greatness, and it was England who stepped up and shattered that streak.
Oh, right.
That kind of sporting trauma lingers in a nation's rugby psyche for decades.
It totally does.
Yeah.
And he also pointed back to the 1999 World Cup quarterfinal in the source.
Oh, yeah.
Erasmus was literally on the pitch when Janny Jabir executed those famous 5 drop goals to send England home.
Such an iconic moment in the sport.
It's unforgettable. And the history between these two nations is just littered with those massive, high-stakes collisions.
It really is a rivalry defined by razor-thin margins. Erasmus noted the multiple World Cup finals they've contested against each other and the tense knockout matches that were repeatedly decided by a single point.
A single point. It's always so close.
Always. Those one-point margins are exactly where the physical conditioning and the tactical data converge. It is always a brutal, agonizingly close affair.
Which breeds a very specific kind of mutual respect between the two camps, right?
Exactly. And that respect was incredibly evident in the sources. Erasmus wasn't just offering standard pre-match platitudes to be polite.
I know, he was very specific.
He pointed directly to the English infrastructure. He highlighted the sheer volume of registered players, noting that while France is first globally, England is second, and South Africa is third.
That's a massive player pool to draw from.
It is. He also specifically praised the high standard and the immense financial power of the English Premiership.
Which makes sense, because that respect for the Premiership is really grounded in reality.
Definitely.
Especially considering a significant contingent of current Springboks actually ply their trade in that exact league.
Right. They play there every week.
They earn their living in England, they face that specific brand of week-in, week-out physicality, and they understand the relentless professionalism required to survive there.
They know firsthand how tough it is.
Exactly. So when Erasmus says it is an honor to play against them, and that the South African camp views England as one of the toughest test matches on the entire calendar, it is an assessment based on deep, structural knowledge of the opponent's domestic strength.
It's not just talk. It's genuine respect.
Which brings us to, honestly, the most fascinating contrast of this entire deep dive.
Okay, what's that?
Well, we've unpacked the veteran media manipulation, right?
Yeah.
And the high-level IP transfer and the heavy historical weight of the rivalry.
Yep, all the big strategic stuff.
But when you look at the actual match day 23, Rassie has selected, sitting right there on the bench are some incredibly fresh faces.
Oh, yes, the debutantes.
Right. Players like Cameron Hanekom and Zach Porthen. Erasmus pointed out that for these young guys, this massive clash at Ellis Park will be their very first true big test match.
It's a trial by fire. It really highlights the dual timeline South Africa is operating on right now.
How do you mean?
Well, on one hand, you have a backroom staff calculating set-piece tendencies down to the decimal point with their newly expanded analytics department.
Right.
And they are managing the press cycle with the precision of a seasoned political campaign.
Totally.
But then ultimately, they're handing the jersey to rookies like Hanekom and Porthen and just sending them out into the absolute cauldron of Ellis Park against an opponent that has historically pushed them to the absolute brink.
The cognitive dissonance for a debutante in that situation must be absolutely staggering.
It has to be overwhelming. Seriously, imagine it. You sit in the team room all week, absorbing this cutting-edge clinical data from Joe Lewis about England's phase play efficiency and, defensive triggers.
All the spreadsheets and video clips.
Yeah. But when you run out of that tunnel into the altitude of Johannesburg, you aren't tackling data points.
No, you are certainly not.
You are facing a massive, highly conditioned English pack that is violently determined to ruin your debut.
Exactly. It is the exact point where the cold science of modern rugby slams headfirst into the brutal emotional reality of the sport.
And that collision of science and emotion is really what makes this opening match so compelling.
Without a doubt. It is a settled Springbok squad trying to honor its traditional physical strengths while urgently adapting to the modern, data-heavy landscape of Tier 1 rugby.
All while trying to blood new players.
Exactly. Integrating inexperienced youth in incredibly high-pressure roles.
It's a crazy balancing act. I want to turn this over to you listening, because this dynamic raises so many questions, and we want to know what you think. Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Drop into the comments and let us know your thoughts and opinions. Do you think Rassie's media silence regarding England's squad is a genuine attempt to keep the weak quiet? Or is it a calculated psychological bluff to disrupt Borthwick's preparation?
It's a great question.
And how do you feel about the ethics and impact of analysts like Joe Lewis crossing enemy lines right before a major test?
Is it fair game?
Right. Is IP transfer just a natural evolution of the modern game, or does it fundamentally change the flavor of international rugby? We really want to hear your take on it.
And, to build on everything we've unpacked today, I'd ask you to consider this final thought regarding this whole invisible arms race.
Lay it on us.
We are looking at a global landscape where a nation like France employs 8 full-time analysts just to track micro-advantages.
8 of them. Just wild.
Right. And a powerhouse like South Africa is scrambling to expand their own department just to keep pace. So, as the physical differences between these elite athletes become negligible and massive matches continue to be decided by single points, are we entering a new era?
Oh, that's interesting.
An era where World Cups are ultimately won just as much by the analysts crunching positional telemetry on laptops in the stands as they are by the players bleeding for the jersey on the pitch.
Wow. The laptops versus the pitch, it completely reframes how we watch the game this Saturday, doesn't it?
It really does. It changes everything.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.